So my name is Helen Dimmick. I am currently working as an independent consultant. I define myself as a gemologist, a diamond grader, a jewellery specialist. But I guess that predominantly my career has always followed a path around retail. So, you know, I've sort of started off in an auction house, then moved to Bond Street. I was very fortunate to work for Tiffany's for many years. Had some tenure at the CMJ, which was fantastic. I then had my own business, Green and Benz, and I was so very, very proud of that. We ultimately won Retail Jeweller of the Year, and that was a real highlight for me because actually it was the proudest moment was for my team, and I guess that's what I'm passionate about: leadership and inspiration. So I try to do whatever I can in both jewellery and best practice and management. But then 3 years ago now, I sold the business and set up as an independent consultant. And I have to say, I've never been happier. It's fantastic. All those years of all of that experience, which may be quite sort of in a similar sort of frame, but it's actually been very, very diverse, and it's all coming to fruition. Really, it's fantastic. I'm still involved with retail. My fiance has his own retail business, and I've been involved in that. And my goodness, the last 18 months has been an incredible period of change. So I'm morphing my business. I still do a lot of work in the industry, but I'm going back to more client work. And it's just wonderful. You know, that real one-to-one, and to share all that experience with people is fantastic. So I hope that's me in a nutshell.
Good. So it sounds like you've done a lot and you're still doing quite a lot, but now sort of lots of different things, which is great. It sounds really interesting.
You add it up and, you know, it is over 20 years of experience. It's really fantastic. But I'm very passionate. You know, I've done a lot of studying, but you have to have experience. And I think one is equally as important as the other.
So tell me about how you got into the trade. So what was your first introduction or your first job into the jewellery industry?
Yeah. Well, it was basically because I was so driven and focused. It's a ridiculous thing, but when I was 16, I saw a picture of a pictorial chest plate from the tomb of Tutankhamun, and I just thought this was phenomenal. And I went home to my parents and said, I want to be a jewellery specialist. And they were just like, wow, okay, what do we need to do to make that happen? And it was hard. I didn't have any family connections, you know, nobody was in the industry. So it was work experience, really. Very, very determined. My first degree was in the history of art and architecture. My postgraduate was in museum and decorative arts, so that I felt there was objects that I was handling. And within that, I went to the Museum of Bath, the Costume Museum. And then I just took voluntary roles at the local auction house, and a job came up as an office junior in one of the regional branches, and I took it. So for all those qualifications, it was typing that actually got me my first role.
Wow.
And then, you know, an opportunity came up in London. I think I'd started my FGA by then. So I just did whatever studying I could do to just get that foot in the door. I think a barrier I felt at the time was that, you know, I have a very, very ordinary family background, and it felt as though it was more through family connections or whatever. So, it was just a lot of hard work and focus. And then as soon as I, you know, started at London, it just continued, really. And I realised that my path, it sounds a bit of a cliche, but I love jewellery, but I love people, and I love putting the two together. And that's been a theme throughout whatever I've done.
Amazing. I mean, starting off, so you say 20 odd years in the industry now. What would you say you face some challenges early on being a female? Did you kind of come across anything that you thought, well, like, they're only saying that, or they're only doing that because I'm a female? Or would you say it's more to do with your lack of connection within the trade?
Yeah, I felt it was more to do with connections at the time. I honestly hadn't ever, I don't think I was consciously aware of it. I do remember a very, very trusted industry friend saying to me, do you know what, you're going to have to be that much better than your male counterpart, which is why I did the FGA and the DGA, and why I studied so hard to win the awards that I did in that, because I did want to prove that I was good at what I did. I didn't think that was because I was a woman. I think it's because I'm a perfectionist. And it's interesting because it's knowing that this discussion was coming up, I had to really contemplate. And I would say that at the beginning, if anything like that happens to me, I deal with it, I minimize it, and I move on. But actually, I would say, if you have to be real, over the years, there are issues when, you are treated differently as a woman. And I think it is prudent to face this and to highlight it. And I do actually feel a sense of responsibility. I am older in the industry. And if I could help somebody younger, I would be honoured to do that.
Mm. And what advice would you give them? That kind of follows on to this question, as a young female starting off in the industry, whatever kind of, route that they want to take, they might face these challenges. I know today is very, very different, but, things might happen, something might get said. What kind of advice would you give them?
I would say reach out. There are so many organisations, within the industry that are highlighting this and championing this. Look at the work you're doing. There's people at the NAJ. There are role models in the industry. Contact somebody, contact us, and we'll, do whatever it takes to flag, to support and address it. My advice as an individual is to be true to yourself and be the very, very best that you can be. I think that there is so much more awareness of the role and the importance of women that hopefully, it isn't going to be as much. But if it is, raise your hand above the parapet, flag it, and contact people. There's prominent women in every facet of the industry now. Just reach out to them. I do think it's one of the most caring, supportive, and collaborative industries that you'll ever come across.
Amazing. And also advice for you as a businesswoman, a successful businesswoman within the industry. What advice would you give to now, as I was saying earlier, there's so many more women that are coming into the industry, whether it just be a hobbyist, a part-time thing, or whether they just want, this is their career that they want to do. What advice would you give them to kind of help start them into, maybe it's I know I've spoken to some women and they've found it that connecting with other people's, whether it's getting gemstones or dealing with certain traders, what advice would you give them?
Reaching out. I think it's networking. I do think it is very hard in a period of lockdown because we've lost that physical interaction. And the point that we all get together at trade events, etc. That's the point that you get that collaboration. But wherever possible, I think reach out on a platform like this, identify it, contact women. More than happy for you to put my contact details on this. If I could help anybody, I really would. So yeah, just ask for help. I think for me, it's one of those things that as well, treat people as you want to be treated yourself. I mean, I'm very, very aware that I was so lucky in my upbringing. My father was a very, very gentleman-like man in his business, and my mother was a fantastic role model. My father really respected women, and I hope that the way I treat people, men and women, is really very fair. I would also actually say I would really want to do a massive plug of support, because there are some wonderful gentlemen in this industry, and I have been treated so well. I cannot tell you the support I've had from the whole range, from so many people, men and women. But at times when I had a challenge once with my retail business. We'd been let down very, very badly. We were in a financially difficult situation. I picked up the phone to all the suppliers and told them exactly what was going on. I cannot tell you the support I got. It was phenomenal. So I actually think, let's not define this as men and women. Let's define this as an industry of collaborative support.
No, that's a great point. I mean, there are still a lot of men in the industry, and there are a lot of great men in the industry, and so calling out to, if they've got an issue, maybe sort of saying to them that they don't feel like they need to they have to go to a woman. I understand it sometimes they feel it's better because they might have come across this before and they've got life experience with this kind of confrontation. But there's a lot of guys in the industry that are willing to help and willing to stand up for you. Sure.
Completely. Yeah, it is. It's phenomenal. There is so much. Yeah, there's so much support. It's really good, and I've really enjoyed that.
No, it's been Yeah, I mean, for me, even personally, I haven't necessarily faced, I haven't been in the industry that long, about 10 years now, but, majority of the people that support me are male within the
Yeah,
industry, which is
exactly.
surprising. But I know that we're dealing with a lot of younger jewelers, and especially going into colleges. We do a lot of
Mhm.
talks to university jewelry
Right.
students and colleges. And I would say 80 to 90% of the class are women. And so
Wow.
times
Yeah.
are changing, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I know the world is very, very different nowadays. So it's nice to know, obviously, they've got the support from women
Yeah.
that have been in the industry a long time, but don't be scared
Yeah.
to reach out
Yeah.
to the male side of
Yeah.
it and
I
ask
think as well,
questions.
for me, it's funny. I've never defined myself as a woman. I've never thought, oh, I'm a woman in this industry. I'm Helen
No,
Dimmick in this industry.
yeah,
And I think that's really important. But what I've realised very recently, actually, my brother is an international lawyer, and I was sort of saying to him, look, I don't get involved in that debate. And he called me out on it. And I think I've got to be careful that maybe over the years, if something happens, as I say, I minimise it, I deal with it, and I move on. And part of the joy of being a consultant is that you can make your decisions as to who you want to work with. But
sure.
I do feel that it's important not to have a blind spot to this and to be very aware of it. And I have had a situation, in the last few years where it was a problem to somebody else, and I thought, oh gosh, this does still happen. So it's funny. I don't think there is an evolution of time where things have improved, but you are also going to still get some individuals who have some challenges. I've often wondered as well, it may not just be gender, but it may be personality. One of the things with me is I'm very, very direct, and what you see is what you get. And I would never, ever wish to say anything offensive, but I will always be the mantra: hard on issues, soft on people. And I don't know if that's gender, as I say, or that's personality, but that integrity and honesty is very, very important, is important to me. But I find that I therefore think I'm very lucky to have a lot of wonderful, collaborative, very transparent relationships with great people in the industry. And if I can use those for somebody coming in who's having challenges, then it's there, then definitely.
Do you think that's helped you being, quite direct and really open, transparent, and honest? Do you think that's helped you with it just within your time in the trade to get to where you are?
I think yes and no. I think some people don't always like it, but
No.
I think you have to be true to yourself. And I think that, I am very, without doing the whole I am what I am, but yes, I am. And I think that people do know. I feel that people know me. They know, they'll always know where they stand with me, and that's important. So yeah, sure. Probably 80-20, probably some people don't like it, but my other half always worries. It's very, very PC at the moment, and he wants me to wear a T-shirt that says "Warning: may cause offence," just because there's a very, very poor filter between what goes on up there and what comes out. But I do feel very driven by a sense of I hope I'm a kind person and a sense of justice, and those values are very, very important to me in what we do. I mean, we work in an industry of love, don't we? So and maybe, I don't know, I don't wish to be stereotypical, but as a woman, can we perhaps tune into that a little bit more, and does that give us a greater understanding, say, of the end consumer and what the industry is predominantly about?
And I think also a lot of our industry is built on trust as well.
Completely.
So being completely open and honest, is sometimes a bit better than being quite a closed person, and someone that not necessarily lacks in confidence, but isn't as transparent and keeps themselves to themselves. I think we as a trade do tend to like people that are, I mean, me personally, dealing with a lot of different people in the industry, you are drawn to people that are really open and tell you about their business, and they're not scared to let everything out and tell you whether their business isn't doing that great or whether they're doing really, really well. And so I think that does definitely work for sure.
I think at the moment we need to say when things are great or when they're not. It is really,
we do.
yeah, there's been times when things were bad for me, and that's when I found, if I would say I need help, this isn't great, that's when I've had the most incredible support. And do worry. I worry about young people coming into this at the moment. We've got to think about mental health as well. So yeah, I think we have a care, duty and responsibility to really be there for everybody in the industry. But yes, to try and break through at the moment. I'm supporting an entrepreneur in the lab-grown diamond lab. She's done this at a time of a pandemic and Brexit and all these other things. It's really, it's tough.
It is. And so, touching on the COVID side, what advice would you give to any jewellers, even now that they've had their business for a couple of years and they've what's been going on, they're really, really struggling. What advice would you give them to kind of continue to push through?
Don't concentrate on the bad side. Think about the opportunities. I mean, after 25 years, I've morphed my business in the last year. I was very much doing a lot of trade work. It was put on hold after, the first lockdown, and I've morphed to be doing more client work, and it's been phenomenal. Absolutely loving it. Changing my website, embracing social media as best I can for somebody that's not very savvy, and look for the opportunities, not where the restrictions lie. And there are so many new platforms that you can reach out on. It's a time for innovation. It's a time for change. And I would say never, ever has jewellery been so important. We're all here because man has adorned himself since the dawn of time. I wear jewellery that's so, so precious to me. And we are going to, I believe, as consumers and clients, want to share the symbolism and the meaning of jewellery with each other so much more. We need to reaffirm the value of our relationships. So I think jewellery is going to have an even greater role for us going forward. So I think demand is going to increase. So really look at your talent, look at your opportunity, and just go for it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Really good words there. So that was the end of my questions, really.
You get me started and you don't shut me up. Sorry.
No, it's great.